July 6th, regular city council meeting. Call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Let's please stand and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All individuals are asked to either silence or turn off cell phones, pages, or other electronic devices that may disrupt the meeting. Approve the agenda as posted in accordance with the open meeting law, and hereon place all agenda items on the table for discussion with the addition of the consent agenda as P is a resignation of Randy from the golf course. I believe that's the only change for tonight. What's the wish of the council?
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition added.
Second. Got a motion by Councilman Gushek, second by Councilman Lotharian. To approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is adopted. Approval of the minutes, copy of the minutes for a special work session meeting of June 15th, 2015, and the regular meeting of June 15th, 2015 are enclosed. What's the wish of the council?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from both of the meetings.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Alderman Urquhart, second by Councilman Knopfler for the approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are adopted. Approval of the bills. Approve checks 92062 through 92171 totaling $657,272.92. Mr. Gushek?
Turn to page 1, please.
Yeah, we have a new switch in City Hall.
Yep, it's right behind the screen, so we can do that, figure it out like.
Expensive switch. Installation, I suppose. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4.
At the bottom, VFD well 7 and 9, what's VFD?
VFD is variable frequency drive, basically allows the pumps to slow down so you can match how much water is being used with how much you pump.
I see, City Hall parking lot had to buy a permit for $150 from Minnesota Department of Health.
Correct. With our water main replacement that we had out there, we had to get a permit for that replacement to make sure it met all the state requirements.
So it's back all up online, all the water's back running through everything, the distribution of it.
Everything's back up and running as it was, yes.
Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. So it roughly costs us about $350, a little more, to mow Lions Park.
Doesn't cost us, the Lions pay for that.
Okay, that comes out of that fund we were talking about earlier. Okay. I should maybe start mowing lawns. Okay, with all said and done here, I make a motion to approve those checks, $92,062, $92,174, totaling $657,272.92.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Gushek, second by Alderman Hercock to approve the bills. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Bills are approved. Awards, donations, presentations, proclamations. Award certificate of commendation, wastewater treatment facility staff, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. There he is, Craig.
Yeah.
There it is, another plaque-free wall. Keep up the work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Consent agenda, 2014 audit received. Airport Commission minutes, May 2015 received. Application to conduct excluded bingo, American Legion Auxiliary Unit 46, Morrison County Fairgrounds, August 13th through the 16th, 2015 approved. Application for exempt permit, raffle, Morrison County Ducks Unlimited Golf Course, August 14th, 2015 approved. Building permit report, May 2015 received. EDA minutes, June 2015 received. Facade easement and deferred loan grant agreement, Great Wall Restaurant, HPC recommendation approved. Grant Estate Historic Preservation Conference, Heritage Preservation Commission authorized. Morrison County Attorney's Prosecution Report, May 2015 received. Parade permit, Healthy Community Collaboratives, Unity Family Healthcare approved. Park Rec and Tree Board minutes, May 2015 received. Police Department report, May 2015 received. Planning Commission minutes, January, March, April, and May 2015 received. Solicitor's license, 60-day. Charlie's Learning Systems approved. Temporary sidewalk closing permit, Gumdrop Tree, July 23rd, 2015 approved. Resignation of Randy Pankren, Little Falls Golf Course, received. What's the wish of the council on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve, authorize, and receive items from the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Councilman Hanson, second by Councilman Gushik, to approve the consent agenda. Anybody got any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public hearing continued from June 1st. Surface and utility improvements, DesRosier Drive, East End, Resolution 2015-56, current project considered. Greg?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we are looking at the public hearing continuing from June 1st for the DesRosier Drive project. This is the east end that we're talking about the first time around. We do have the affidavit of publication as well as the affidavit of mailing for the individual notices. The project location that we're talking about, as I indicated, is the east end. So we're looking at DesRosier Drive. Riverwood is on the far right-hand side. It's approximately 995 feet that we're looking at for the project. We're looking at extending sewer and water down that stretch of the roadway. We did receive a petition from one property owner, which represents about 36.8% of the project limits. The pavement is in good condition. It does have a Paisley rating of 7. A little bit narrower than what we normally like to see on our city streets as far as 22 feet wide. And there's currently not city utilities along DesRosier Drive. It is stubbed out on both the east and west end, but not currently run down the road. So that was stubbed out back in 2003. As you can see, this is a Google screenshot looking to the west. Riverwood is back here. There's some cracking along the project, but not too severe by any means. The constructed improvements, we'll be looking at 8-inch sanitary sewer services stubbed out to the property line, so if they decide to hook up at that point in time, they can. 8-inch water main would be extended on the east side. We would assess that at a 6-inch cost. The oversize is due to fire flow that would be required for the development area there. Water services, again, will be stubbed out to the property line. The road will be put back at a 24-foot rural section with the ditches to handle the storm events. We'd be looking at a 5-inch aggregate base and 2 inches of bituminous pavement, consistent with our other city streets. Depending on probable costs, the construction we're estimating to come in at about $213,720. When you add contingency, engineering, legal, and fiscal, we're looking at $282,645 for a total project cost on the east end. Funding for the project, we'll be looking at assessments as well as city funding. Assessments would come in at about 51%, projected at $142,887, with the city's share coming in at $139,758 for a total $282,645. Assessment rates, I apologize, it's kind of cut off with the screen over here. 24-foot wide rural section front footage is at $20 a foot. 24-foot wide rural section side footage is at $10 a foot. Sanitary sewer comes in at $30 a foot. Sanitary sewer service is at $80 or $800 each and $1,000 respectively for a 4 and a 6-inch service line. The water main again is at $30 per foot. The water service into the individual properties is at $1,200 and $1,900 each for a 1-inch and 6-inch respectively. Notice on the bottom, we are recommending deferring those assessments until the property owners hook up. That's consistent with what was occurred back in 2003 with the Riverwood extension. Looking at the project here, the city does intend to sell bonds for the project, and if the council approves this segment, it may be combined with other city projects. Property owners who are disabled or who meet income guidelines and are 65 years of age or older may apply for a deferment. So the next steps. Right now we've got the public hearing. That's at July 6th. We'll be looking at advertising for bids. You'll notice that's later on in your agenda. We do need to obviously have the appropriate time frame for advertising for bids. So we'll be looking at opening bids on August 3rd. Awarding of the contract would then come sometime after that, most likely in August as well, with construction occurring September through November. We would propose to have a special assessment hearing on August 3rd. Again, that's coming up in the regular agenda, with construction completed in November of 2015. Now, each of these items requires council action. Tonight we're looking at public hearing, advertisement for bids, and then once we open those bids, we'll be looking at awarding the contract. So tonight, we're looking for basically authorization to start getting contractor pricing on the project. With that, do you have any questions on this?
You had a 1.8 inch.
Yes.
If both sections are done, you only need 6 inch.
That's correct. If, right now we have it at an 8-inch for the east end. If both sections, east and west portion of DesRosier Drive, go through, we would only need to put down a 6-inch water main. That would provide sufficient fire flow as well as water pressure out in that area. If only the east end would go, then we would need to look at an 8-inch water main just due to the fire flow and the pressure for that area.
So if there's more building going on around there quite a bit, would that 6 inch still be enough?
That would still suffice for the flow and pressure, yes. Yeah, we have a super water model for that area, and that was taken into account.
Anybody else have any questions? So this is continued. Do we have public input or do we have public input?
Yes.
Tonight, okay. So any comments from the public?
Yes.
Correct, this is the east end.
My name is Bruce Smith. I'm with the Sawmill Land and Trust at 14319 Elm Street. I also own Atlas Resources, and I've been in business for 30 years building pipelines, pumping stations, offshore platforms for oil production, and done the inspection and installation on over 100 miles of water pipe and hundreds of miles of petroleum pipelines. So I would like to address, first of all, in February, I believe there was a feasibility report requested and subsequently generated. I had a difficult time finding it because it's not been published officially in the city council meeting minutes. Normally, there's a pro and con to a feasibility function, because that's what it's about, to study the feasibility or lack of thereof. And that's accomplished in a page and a half. The rest of it is kind of like a laundry list from a pipe shop order desk. They don't address the fact that there needs to be, in all likelihood, lift station, because when you're looking at something that's starting out at the depth that needs to be and getting to the elevation at Riverwood for the tie-in, there's a whole bunch of issues here that, from a professional point of view, that need to be addressed. Then, by the time you get down to the west end, we'll talk on that and another issue. But I don't think that there's been enough work done on this to be able to do it knowledgeably. You'll want to combine it with the second phase on the west end, which doesn't address the whole thing of tying together and calling it a 373 project. I think somebody needs to push that big red reset button, start all over on this. If you're going to do it as one project, do it all together and get it all done right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Bruce. Anyone else wish to speak?
Hi, good evening. I'm an attorney, Luann Petrichka, and I represent Sawmill Land and Trust, and I'm also here to talk on behalf of Byron Smith. The first thing is, Byron pointed out, as Bruce Smith pointed out, the feasibility study has not been published. It appears to be incomplete. And I represent, just by way of background, I represent a lot of developers, so I've been on the other end. I've also represented property owners, and as far as feasibility studies go, it was preliminary in nature, and yet it's relied upon. It looks to me like it was just looking at the cost, overall cost, as opposed to looking at, is it really necessary? Is it cost effective with or without the development that you're talking about, the Roach development people? So I think you need to look at that overall before you jump ahead and spend $500,000 for the project. I understand that there may be a need at some point in time, but this may not be the right time to do it. And again, there's no analysis as to with and without the Roach development project. Another item that you may not realize, the budget or the assessments that you're relying upon, I've looked at them, and the ones that were directed to Byron Smith appear to encompass approximately a third of this overall budget. His property doesn't even abut the property that's subject to the improvements. And so that's $67,000 out of the $160,000 that was allocated for the public improvement. Moreover, if it did apply to him, he's in the age category, he's poverty, so he would be doing a deferment. So you have a big chunk of your overall budget that will actually be, that shouldn't be assessed, and if you do think it's assessed, it's not available. So I think you have to take that into account. Again, there's a disproportionate assessment if you're going to impose that on Byron under the circumstances. That's a huge financial burden. If I understand correctly, you did approve back in January to be done in February, the feasibility report. It would be real helpful if you, again, looked at those other factors, slow things down a bit. And plus, I believe that there needs to be an official full report in your council records and published so that people know what's going on and how it's going to be impacted. The other thing, in your notice, I saw that The notice states there's a reasonable estimate of the impact of the assessment will be available at the hearing. I'm uncertain if that was provided orally or how that was actually provided or if it was an oversight. But thank you for your time and consideration.
Can I have your name again, please?
Sure, Luann Petrichka. I have a business card.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Terry Roach, Little Falls, Minnesota. As you all know, I requested the east end be extended and improved for a project we are still fully committed and intending to do yet this fall. And we still need it, and that's that. We're still planning to build, and we still need the pipes. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Anyone else wish to speak?
Lynn Watala. I don't live on DesRosier Drive, but you are trying to assess the people of DesRosier Drive with improvements that you're deeming to be improvements for them. They already have water, they already have sewer, they have a road that you've admitted is not in need of repair. So he wants to build a project and you want to assess your community members that to provide him with water and sewer for his development. Why isn't he paying the whole thing? And it's my understanding that they already have access to water and sewer and they don't need this. So I really encourage you to look at that and quit penalizing your own community so they can have a profit. Thank you. Address, please? Pierce. I need a street address. 33221. Quest Road.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Bill Anderson, 14452 Elm Street. My property abuts the property where you're planning on putting this development. And with the Riverwood area and the Roach property running out to the Riverwood area, why wouldn't you just save the taxpayers money and have them run it off the line they have? The assessment's going up against DesRosier Drive. The people don't need the service right now. The city is already over $20 million in debt, and I have the Standards and Poor report here that can prove to you what the rating is for the city. So won't the city save money by having Roach running on his own property and look in the future on DesRosier Drive? Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anyone else wish to speak?
Robin Hensel, 807 First Street Southeast. I share a lot of the same feelings that some have shared here earlier, especially that the city is so deeply in debt. Originally, before this Roach development and DesRosier Drive even came up, I am here for almost every meeting. I think I've missed 2 in the last 4 years. There were other street projects that were put aside in order to do this. I'd like to ask the council why that was decided. For those who weren't here earlier and heard my public forum, I'd like to read again some of the things that I feel are important. And I oppose both of these street improvements. Spot zoning is the application of zoning to a specific parcel or parcels of land within a larger
Rob, does this
zoned area.
pertain to the street improvement?
Yes.
This ain't, we're not
Yes.
rezoning nothing, this is a street improvement.
Well,
Please
this
stay on
is-
task.
You're interrupting me.
You're right.
Parcels of land within a larger zoned area when the zoning is usually at odds with the city's master plan and current zoning restrictions. Spot zoning may be ruled invalid as arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable treatment
Robin,
that benefits.
please pertain to the subject or sit down,
This
please.
is pertaining, this is pertaining to this street improvement.
No, it's not. This is street improvement. This ain't rezoning. This ain't spot zoning. This is a street improvement.
Excuse me, this is a public hearing, this is in relation, directly related to these street improvements. If it weren't for this development, none of this hearing would be happening today. That benefits a particular owner while undermining the pre-existing rights and uses of adjacent property owners. Generally, zoning is a conditional constitutional exercise of a state's police powers to protect public health, safety, and welfare. Therefore, spot zoning or any zoning enactment would be unconstitutional to the extent it contradicts or fails to advance a legitimate public purpose, such as promotion of community welfare or protection of other properties. Spot zoning would be a constitutional.
Do you know what spot zoning is, Robin? Do you have any idea what spot zoning is?
Contract
Does it pertain
zoning occurs.
to street
when a-
improvements?
Excuse me, this is public time, not your time. Contract zoning,
Please take your seat,
when
Robin.
a local zoning authority accommodates a private interest by rezoning a district or parcel of land within that district,
President,
then
are
the
we
private
discussing
interest
spot
may
zoning?
then be allowed to develop the land where before the zoning regulations prohibited such a land use. Contract zoning is usually illegal. And I just want to state that I'm really appalled that this council once again decides to overtalk a person of the public with what directly pertains to this. Shame on all of you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
So, I just want to, we're talking, bring it back to this, the east end of the project. That's all we ever asked for. We didn't know it was going to be this big of a deal, but we have spoken to the 4 or 5 directly affected neighbors, who none of which are here tonight, that are going to share in our assessment, and we have been talking with them about it, and they are getting some. It's not just costing them money for our project. They're getting sewer and water service, which increases the value of their property. Someday in the future, they're going to need it, and everybody knows that. So we're not trying to cram something in on our immediate neighbors. We have been in discussions with this about the ones that are affected by the portion that we're asking for to benefit the development that we have proposed. And as far as it costing the city money, it will cost the city money to put pipes in the ground, but our tax base will be generated from new development. The only way to develop things is to have sewer and water at the ground. It has to be there to do it. And right now, there's none on that street that needs to get there, and it's not going to get any cheaper in the future. So I just wanted to clarify some of these points.
Matt, thank you. Address, please.
Matt Roach, 13833, 179th Street, Little Falls.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Lynn Watala again, you still have the address, 33221. If your sole purpose is to approve this improvement for them, just know that that improvement project is going to be fought next week. So if you want to do this just for them, then you're going to have a big fight on your hands.
Anyone else wish to speak? Third and final call. Anyone else wish to speak? Hearing none, we close the public hearing. What's the wish of the council? Have a motion?
For purpose of discussion, I move resolution 215-56.
Second. A motion by Mayor Zilka, second by Councilman Hanson. For the approval of resolution 2015-56. Any discussion?
Mr. Kimmen, couple concerns. We've discussed this for a long time.
Yes.
And the saying that we can just run it right off Lindbergh into the, or Lindbergh, right off of Riverwood into that property. Would you explain to us how that was discussed and what the conclusions were?
Yeah, if we run that off of Riverwood right through the property, obviously the Roaches would be bearing the cost, but at that point that would be a private sewer. The individuals on the north would not have access to it at that point, and then the city would not be able to assess those parcels to the south, the road development, for any future pipes that are put in because they already have the service there. So this pipe, by having it in the city right away, benefits both properties on the north and south, as well as the city for the construction.
Alleged benefit.
I'd like to expand on that question. When you say we couldn't assess in the future, then we're talking about the south side of the street because it would be private sewer and water.
Right.
But if it was done in the future, am I correct in assuming that they would get assessed for the street improvement? Because they would have a budding street.
The street would be portion of it, but the sewer and the water would not be accessible. Correct.
Is that, I don't know if Terry or Matt can speak to this, or if they talk to you, what's their position on going in from Riverwood? Is that an option, been explored?
As we talked it through, going down the DesRosier Drive is kind of the right way to do it, by all engineering standards, I guess. Pretty fair statement.
True, yes.
You know, it seems that this project is one that came in after the fact. Last fall, we already had decided what projects we were going to do. Suddenly, along about January, we get this free street. At the time, I asked if there were any strings attached, if there would be any resultant expenses as a result of this free street, and was assured that that would not occur. The very next meeting, we get this proposal to put in this development, requesting the water and sewer, to find out that basically the plans had already been drawn up long before the street had been donated. It smells funny to me. I believe that with the complete and total opposition that we have from all of the people in the area, there may be some solutions, but I don't believe that passing this tonight will be the best solution for that. I think that if given time, over a period of time, both sides, however many sides there are, may come to resolution within themselves as to what is acceptable, and I think we can go forward at that time. I think if we were to pass this tonight, it would be a case where we would be fueling the fire of the hatred against government, and I really don't want to be a part of that. I will be voting no on all issues relative to the DesRosier development.
Just so you know, Lauren, you don't have complete opposition, because I had someone who was here testifying against it before, stopped to tell me that the neighbors across the street were in agreement to it after getting some concessions from.
Would have liked for some of them to show up, because that's what I was told to. I talked to her as well, that there's been kind of a change of heart out there.
That's what I was told.
Well, we had a public hearing tonight. 4 or 5 property owners, none of them are here opposed. If they're that opposed, don't want the project, do you think they'd be here? They were here before and spoke. They were meeting with the landowners in the neighborhood, the Roaches, to try to come to some kind of agreement. And obviously they're not here in opposition.
May I speak on that?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Well, and this one we have here doesn't abut that property that you're speaking on behalf of, correct? We're talking about the east half of the project, and it stops at the line.
Actually, just short of it, but yes.
Anybody else got any questions or concerns?
Well, this has been an ongoing thing. We started out with the east end, and we added a discussion about the west. And now we're back at the east again, and it'd be nice to see this thing come to rest. It doesn't seem to affect the west end, so I'm not in opposition to that. If it was the whole project, we'd have to look at it differently. So I'm probably going to vote yes on this one.
So this one was $282,000, with $63,000 of it being to the Roach development. We have an idea of what our anticipated yearly property tax to the city is? once it's completed? Not a clue?
Roach, had that in a presentation. Thought it was just
Are you?
I'd be happy to ballpark it if you want.
Well, we should have some kind of idea, right?
And let me clarify your question, so I can understand it. You mean what our share of the the bond payment is going
No,
to be each
what,
year?
once,
What share of the property taxes will come to the city once that is developed, I think is what.
The revenue of the city.
correct,
From their development?
correct.
The taxes.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen that yet, so I
That I
don't know.
can't
which-
tell you the city's portion, I'm sorry, I can tell you what we'll pay in property taxes annually within a few $1,000s.
So we should be able to figure that out if you know what the property taxes are.
They do.
Because we're asking him a question.
They're, on all our other Morrison County properties, we average about 1,000 a unit, that would be 32,000 a year in taxes.
And we'll get about 30%, 30 to 35% of that.
Anybody else got any questions? Hearing none, resolution, call the roll.
William?
No.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Liljegren?
Yes.
Silka?
Yes.
Antler?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Bushik?
Yes.
Knapfla?
Yes.
Carries.
Surface and utility improvement DesRosier Drive, Mississippi Boulevard, West End, resolution 2015-57, order and project, correct?
Yeah, the other public hearing that we have tonight is for the west end of DesRosier Drive, which also connects up to Mississippi Boulevard. Again, this was continued from the June 1st meeting. The project location basically extends from where the east half stops and it continues around north up Mississippi Boulevard to Lowry Drive. This was petitioned by the 5 property owners, which accounts for about 47% of the property along the project limits. The Phaser rating for this section for DesRosier Drive is a 7. Mississippi Boulevard, since it's a little bit newer, is a Phaser rating of 8, just a step higher than that. Again, we're looking at 22 feet wide, which is consistent with the rest of DesRosier Drive. There's no utilities along DesRosier, but it was stubbed out along Mississippi Boulevard in 2003 with the Riverwood annexation. So here, we're standing at the intersection of Mississippi Boulevard and DesRosier Drive, looking to the east. Again, you can see some transverse cracking, but it's consistent with the rest of DesRosier Drive with the 7 and 8 Phaser rating. The proposed improvements, very similar to the east end in terms of an 8-inch sanitary sewer, 6-inch water main, sewer and water services stubbed out to the property line. The rural section that we'll be putting back is 24 feet wide with the ditches to handle the storm events. Again, we'll be looking at a 5-inch aggregate base with a 2-inch bituminous pavement consistent with our city street. The opinion of probable cost, construction comes in just under $300,000 at $296,635. When you add contingency and engineering, legal, and admin, we're looking at $358,928. The assessments would consist of about 44.8%, totaling $160,709. City picking up the remaining cost for a total of $358,928. Looking at the assessment rates, again, they're the same as we looked at the east end, $20 per front foot for a rural section 24 feet wide, $10 per foot for side footage. Sanitary sewer and water main are at $30 a foot. Sanitary sewer services at $800 and $1,000 for 4 and 6 inch respectively. A water service is at $1,200 and $1,900 for 1 and 6 inch respectively. And again, staff is recommending deferments of these assessments similar to the Riverwood project in 2003 until those parcels hook up to city utilities. Again, the city intends to sell general obligation bonds. If the council approves this segment, it could be combined with other projects. And property owners who are disabled or who meet income guidelines and are 65 years of age or older may apply for a deferment. The steps for the west half will be similar to the east half. Tonight we have the public hearing. We'll be looking at advertising the remainder of July, opening bids on August 3rd. After August, we'll be looking at awarding the contract. and then construction would occur September through November. We were looking at having a special assessment hearing, which is coming up on your agenda on August 3rd as well, and then construction would be completed in November of this year. Any questions on that stretch?
Any questions? This time we'll open up to the public. Anyone wish to speak?
Mr. President, before,
Yep.
we did receive 2 letters from residents. I believe Bruce was here tonight, and another one was from Kathy Lang, both in regards to the Sawmill Trust parcel, but we did receive two letters which were included in your packet.
Luann Patricia again, on behalf of the Sawmill Landed Trust and Byron Smith. From a legal standpoint, I'm not sure why this is even an agenda item. You have on your resolution from May 4th that you relied on, it says the resolution 2015-39, accepting the feasibility report calling for a public hearing failed to be adopted on April 20th, and the city council wishes to revisit proposed project. The problem is, on April 20th, you denied the project. And the city code has, in your own ordinance 11.04, effective denial, number 7, rezoning applications. This technically is a form of rezoning because it's you're asking for a conditional use permit to avoid having to rezone. Rezoning applications may be denied by motion of council, and such motion shall constitute a finding determination that the proposed rezoning is not in the best interest for the physical development of the city. And then this is a part that applies. No application which has been denied wholly or in part shall be resubmitted for a period of 6 months from the date of said order of denial. So they can't even technically be reconsidered until October 20th at the earliest, 2015. And again, the same objections, strongly opposed to it by my clients. This is clearly tied to the development, which has been denied. You adopted the resolution of your own council, the planning committee, and there's all this criteria that you have to go through. So if you adopt this resolution, it does clearly appear that you're pushing through this other project in direct violation of your own city ordinance. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Bruce Smith with the Sawmill Land and Trust, 14319 Elm Street. In regards to a previous position about the landowners that are not available here at the meeting tonight, you all have beat these people into submission with the number of delays, reschedulings, can't be published, a whole host of things that have just hammered these poor people into the ground. I went over there. I flew in from Los Angeles specifically early to talk to these people, the ones that put out this petition in the first place, to join in with this one that was in the beginning. They don't want this. They've got sewer, they've got water on their own, and a couple of them even had a meeting here informally with some of the city officials that are involved. And they're pushing deck chairs around on a Titanic on this project. They are worried about minuscule setbacks and a count of trees and things like that to get this water project in here. There was an obligation given the engineering department by you men to come up with a feasibility study. Now, I managed to dig the one out for the first half, like I said. There's not one for the second half. You can't even proceed with this one because there's been no feasibility study. And that doesn't even account for the lift stations that's going to have as much as $10,000 per residence hookup fees on this. there's been no real cost analysis on this for either the city or the residents. Regarding the property at 16591, you're going to be denied because of poor assessment input. All of that $67,000 on potential assessments on there. That together with the impact of the lift stations, you're looking at a $100,000 error in cost estimating. That's a 30-year project. You need to push that big red reset button that I alluded to earlier. I would sorely appreciate you saving me from running up here about every 6 or 8 weeks. These people have got it easy compared to me. Last time I was here from Baltimore. You need to put the brakes on this project. You've already combined it numerically into 373. Why don't you just restart the whole thing and do it right and get some numbers that are right and get proper input from the residents. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
I'd like to ask a question if, as is typical for most public hearings, if the letter from Kathy Lang is going to be read by anyone here. If not, I'd like to read that. Don't letters about this hearing have to be read?
We include in the packet for the council in the.
But this is a public hearing. At other public hearings, no matter what it was about, if there were statements that were sent in, mailed in, given to you or any of the staff, they were read publicly.
I have not read any of them.
I want to have her read it. That was my wife. I'm going to give her permission to read it.
Okay. Due to work commitments, I'm unable to attend the July 6th meeting. On behalf of Byron Smith, whose property sidelines DesRosier Drive, he will not be connecting to city water services, nor was he asked to sign a petition for such service. As he owns the largest section of the property in that area, this is very concerning. I'm also concerned when I see Councilman Handler, along with Matt and Terry Roach and Greg Kimmen, coming from a closed-door meeting at City Hall before a discussion was to be held on the Roach development issue. In conversations with some of the DesRosier residents, they signed the petition for utility services as they were told the cost would be much higher if they didn't sign immediately. With all this in mind, the cost to install utility services is estimated at $300,000, which is approximately equivalent to the assessments. As we are all aware, construction costs are always above estimations. With the only real assurance of one property owner, Roach Development, connecting immediately, why would the city spend taxpayer dollars on a project to benefit one property owner? This not only sets an undesirable precedence, but it's also not a financially sound decision for a city already in debt. Roach Development purchased that property knowing full well the zoning classification and the utility service available. Taxpayers should not be required to bear the expense of the requests of one property owner. Kathy Lang, 16542 Riverwood Drive, and I, Robin Hensel, 807 First Street Southeast, strongly oppose this as well.
My name is Bill Anderson, 14452 Elm Street. I really oppose the whole project out there. About 5 or 6 years ago, the city did put water and sewer down Elm Street. And I hooked up to it because I was having sewer problems at my residence. Right after this whole operation started here, Mr. Kimmen, which I think is probably the worst engineer I ever talked to, came to my house and asked my wife how many times I visited with Byron Smith. If this engineer is so professional, like he claims he is, why doesn't he write a letter to Byron Smith and ask him why he wants to solve an engineer problem out on Elm Street? Every winter in January, stop by my house. Please leave your water run. There's a possibility of freezing up. I asked the engineer, how deep is it in the road? He's got a map, he says it's this deep. Well, let me tell you guys, when that was put in on Elm Street, When I hooked up, I was gonna have it witched in under my basement. And luckily, the engineer from St. Cloud was there and said, you're wasting your money because it isn't deep enough in your road. The sewer's here, the water's here. So what does this engineer want to do? He wants permission to put a line across the Smith property to flow it. Well, I think we should get Elm Street fixed before we worry about DesRosier Drive. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
My name is John Lack, 16542 Riverwood. Mr. Kimmon, isn't it safe to say that your brother's a big-time dirt digger?
He does own a dirt digging company, yes.
Isn't it going to be in your best interest if you hire him when this bids come through? You're going to make sure that goes through, right?
He has no affiliation with Roach or the city.
Let's see about that. I'm sure he's going to get that.
No, I have no control over that.
Anyone else wish to speak? Third and final call? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing, 8:21. What's the wish of the council on resolution 2015-57?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Councilman Hanson, second by Councilman Bushwick. For resolution 2015-57. Any discussion?
Yeah, there's a few things I'd like to bring up. There was an accusation of no feasibility study or one that wasn't good enough. What do you have to say about that, Mr. President?
We have the feasibility report on file back in the office. We did present it to the council for their review, but it is on file for review. In terms of lift stations, we're not going to need any on DesRosier Drive. That's been reviewed as well. And Elm Street does have 8 feet water main depth. The problem is we don't have any flow over in that area. We just have one residence hooking up to it. So because of the low flow, that's why the water gets cold and could potentially freeze.
Yeah, that probably doesn't have anything to do with this anyway, but, Byron Smith, according to looking at this, he's being assessed $67,000 on this project.
True.
Okay, and the rest of the people, the petitioners probably add up to about that much. And then there's one that didn't sign as a petitioner, that was Brad Burkock. So he didn't petition for this, so it's almost like those who petition are about 50%.
44.8, I believe, was the number that we have there. Yes.
Okay. And there's no plan on rezoning the east end, like was mentioned a little earlier.
Well, the street project has nothing to do with rezoning.
That's the point I'm trying to make here. It has nothing to do with rezoning. That's a whole different issue. Okay.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like some clarification on the two halves of the street. So the east half, which abuts the property that Roach's own, and the street improvement stops, you said, shortly before the property line?
Correct.
And that's also where those utilities are gonna end as well?
For the east segment, yes.
Correct. Okay, and I just wanna make sure I have this straight, because the west half is gonna be serviced from Mississippi Boulevard and go the other direction.
That's correct.
So when I understand wanting to combine the two projects, because it seems to make sense, although in this case, it would seem to me that we're not really out a whole lot if we just did half the street. I mean, in the future, we wouldn't have to start over again. We wouldn't have to dig up the first half to resume.
Correct.
If there becomes a need or desire on the west end of the street, we might overlap by whatever it takes to patch in.
The original petition was to extend utilities
Correct.
on DesRosier Drive. We extended them as far as we could from Riverwood until they basically got to a depth where you can't go anymore to properly
Right.
serve the properties.
So whether or not we do the west end, the east is gonna be its project, and although it's one DesRosier Drive, it's two different projects.
That's correct.
The only thing continuing between the two is the asphalt on top.
Yes,
And the water line.
and the water line.
Oh.
And the water line.
Okay. The water can't go from Mississippi Boulevard in the future?
They will loop up to Mississippi Boulevard, yes. Till they're connected on both ends.
Okay. Well,
They were connected in the middle because it improved water flow for
And pressure.
pressure. But that's why it could be a 6-inch instead of an 8-inch if they're looped.
If it's looped, you
fire
can reduce it down to that, yes.
okay, thank you.
Tony, do you have a clarification on what the attorney over there said about the amount of time before you can bring that to the,
That has to do with rezoning, so I mean, that's the big question, is what did we deny? And I don't remember what we denied specifically back in February or March or whatever it was, but if we denied the rezoning, it doesn't sound to me like we're doing rezoning right now. It sounds to me like we're doing street improvement, a utility improvement. Whether or not, at what point they can come back in, ask for rezoning, ask for a conditional use, ask for these other things, I think that would be applicable to that, but I'm not hearing that we're doing anything unless I'm misunderstanding or unless I'm not following what we did in the past. But as far as I know, all we're doing here is a street improvement.
Any other discussion?
Just for your information, I'm going to abstain since I live along here.
Resolution, call the roll.
Hurkak,
Abstain?
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson,
No.
Bushik,
No.
Knopfler,
no.
Boyum,
No.
motion fails.
On the lettings, resolution 2015-64, award bid, public improvement, PIR, sidewalks. Craig?
We opened bids for our sidewalk improvement project late last week. We received one bid from Tri-City Paving in the amount of $64,075. We are recommending tonight to award the project to Tri-City Paving to fix the sidewalks around town, specifically the east side, that were identified in our sidewalk project.
What's the wish of the council on resolution 2015-64?
I move.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Hurkak, second by Councilman Hanson, for approval of resolution 2015-64. Any discussion? Hearing none, resolution, call the roll.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Antler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Boyum,
Yes.
Hurkak.
Yes.
Resolution carries. Soil testing pump improvement 373, Craig?
We requested quotes from two soil testing firms. We received both of those. The low quote came from ITT, or Independent Testing Technologies, out of Wake Park, in the amount of $4,765. So tonight we are asking the council to ratify and confirm the contract with ITT. We did have them complete some testing out on the projects as they are ongoing, in the amount of $4,765 to be charged to the project.
What is the wish of the council?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Liljegren, second by Alderman Hurkak. To award the bid to ITT, not to exceed the amount of $4,765. Any discussion?
It's testing for the projects we have going on currently.
That's correct, yes. Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries. Purchase 2016 Ford Police Interceptor SUV squad vehicle from Nelson Auto, Fergus Falls Police Department. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I received a quote from, I have it in front of me here, Nelson Auto Center of Fergus Falls, requesting authorization to purchase a squad car or SUV vehicle for the police department for this year. We did not purchase a vehicle last year. This vehicle would replace a 2007 Dodge Durango. The vehicles that I received quotes for were a 2015 Ford Police Interceptor sedan, 2016 SUV Ford Police Interceptor, and a 2015 Dodge Charger sedan. We tried to keep the options all similar on all three vehicles to get a true cost analysis on vehicles. The SUV, I know the sheriff's office is using those pretty much exclusively now. They've been very popular and very user-friendly for their staff. We tried to stay with the same options that they went with. The price of the vehicle was $27,986.95 with options that were selected. And then this purchase was budgeted for.
Chief, this does not include bringing then with the lights and sirens and equipment. That'll be a separate.
Correct.
That's it. So the 15 isn't available in SUV, or we just quoted the 16th on the state contract? Or
yeah, these were the current prices that came out. I was surprised as well that the SUV was a 2016 model year. I don't know why the sedans were 2000. That's the current bid for the state contract.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Mayor Zilka, second by Councilman Kushik, to approve the purchase of the 2016 Police Interceptor SUV for $27,986.95 to Nelson Auto in Fergus Falls. Any discussion?
Chief, I think we bring this up all the time, but local car dealers, did they turn in any RFPs or?
I did not ask this year
Okay.
for competitive bids from other dealers locally.
If I can, I've had a lot of experience over the years with this type of purchasing. When you purchase out a state contract, it's just about impossible for the locals. And we have a big Ford dealership up there, and they tried to match the price because we wanted to buy local, and they just couldn't do it. So, state contract, I mean, if you look at these prices for an SUV, 2016, that's a pretty good price. And the locals just can't come up with that kind of incentive for those.
Okay. I appreciate the clarification on the state contract. I think most people just think that you go out and buy the cheapest one you can find.
Any other discussion?
How many vehicles are on the fleet?
8. I believe I provided an inventory. Do you know if that got to the council?
No, I didn't include it.
We have 8 vehicles. The lowest mileage is a 2013 Dodge Charger with 32,000 miles. We have a 2008 Crown Victoria, which the speedometer light is out. I think it's around 150,000, so that's kind of the less mileage. But, we've got 3 other vehicles that are in that 70 to 80, 4 vehicles that are in that 70 to 80,000. You rack up miles pretty quick. And then we didn't have a new vehicle last year either, which also brought the mileage up on these other vehicles.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ordinance number 76, 6 series, sale of property, Central McGowan, introduced 6-8, reintroduced 6-15. Lori?
So this ordinance would sell property to Central McGowan in the North Bluff edition, and it is based on our business city policy number 8, which is our land write-down policy. Property will be sold for $36,000 to be discounted based on job creation and job retention.
What's the wish of the council on ordinance number 76?
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gushik, second by Councilman Knopfler, to approve ordinance number 76. I will be abstaining for conflict of interest. Any other discussion? Hearing none, ordinance, call roll.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hamfler,
Abstain?
Hanson,
Yes.
Gushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Goya,
Yes.
Hurkak,
Yes.
Liljegren.
Yes.
Carries.
Ordinance number 78, 6 series, amend city chapter code, beer, wine, and liquor, introduce 6-1, reintroduce 6-15. Adopt. Tony?
Right, this was reintroduced at the last meeting. We had a few significant changes that we felt warranted reintroduction. The biggest one being that we changed so that if the state allows us more liquor licenses, that we will automatically be eligible under our ordinance for those, as opposed to the way the ordinance was previously written, whereby we would have to amend our ordinance to adopt the increased liquor licensing. So that was the biggest change. All the rest was basically typos, grammar corrections, and things like that. So adoption is recommended.
What's the wish of the council on ordinance number 78?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mayor Zilka, seconded by Councilman, is it Alderman Burkott?
I think the way it works for me.
I couldn't tell if you were Lauren on the, to approve ordinance number 78. Discussion?
I have something I'd like to read because I had somebody call me a couple times and give me information of a study that had been done by people named Wexler and Tobin. I wanted to read a summary from the end of their report, and I don't know why he gave me that name of their report when they include this information, because it doesn't go with what he said. The evidence shows instead that strengthening enforcement and establishing policies to support the existing minimum legal drinking age are effective approaches to lower alcohol-related morbidity and mortality among youth. I think it's a good thing to put in place.
I would agree. I've been a supporter of this from the start, and I've heard all kinds of arguments against it, including the penalties aren't high enough, that we should put more responsibility on the kids. And the point I would make is it's a starting point. When they first set the speed limit on Highway 10, I don't